Welcome, everyone, to episode 151 of the NBA podcast. I'm Bryan Toporek, and today, it's Friday, June 15th, and the NBA offseason is officially underway now because we got our first report about a possible super team forming in Los Angeles. So we're going to devote this entire episode to the news about Kawhi Leonard reportedly wanting out of San Antonio, where we think he's going to end up, who's got the best offers they can make, all of that and more. Before we get underway, reminder that you can follow us on Twitter at the NBA Pod. In our bio, you can find our Twitter handles, so give us a follow as well. You can also find us on iTunes, so please subscribe, download, leave some 5-star reviews. We'd love any feedback. We're now being hosted on the Almighty Baller Podcast Network, so check them out on Twitter at AlmightyCasts. Joining me today, as always, is my very stable genius of a co-host, Morten Jensen. How's it going, Mort?
It's going well. I am going to be, scrolling through Twitter during this podcast, and As you were speaking, we got a tweet from Woj about this whole thing, and he says, Indiana had little interest in Paul George trade with Lakers, and that'll be the case for Spurs too. Boston gives Spurs best building blocks of assets, one of young forwards like Jaylen Brown, its own 18 pick, 19 protected Kings pick, etc. Launch to the Spurs, don't hold your breath. Here's the thing, though. Let's start with that. Let's start with the whole Boston angle because initially the report came out. Woj followed up with saying, Kawhi has his eyes on the Lakers, and then
let's just preface everything with
all right. Let's preface everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So at 12:30 Central Time or so, someone in the Kawhi Leonard camp sent a mass text out to a bunch of different NBA reporters. Chris Haynes, Woj, Jabari Young of the San Antonio Express News, among others. Basically, every reporter at the same time reported Kawhi wants out. He's eyeing LA, whether it's the Lakers or the Clippers. He reportedly prefers the Lakers, but he wants to just go to LA in some capacity.
Agent.
Chris Haynes of ESPN says Leonard has, quote, grown frustrated with how the organization handled his quad injury and feels the franchise turned on him once he sought a second opinion. This is nothing new there. We've had the reporting dating back to January that his doctors cleared him. He was the one sitting out. Ramona Shelburne and Michael C. Wright of ESPN had that big report in the beginning of May. About him being unhappy, and none of that is new. I think the big news of the day is that he seemingly is not willing to stay in San Antonio, even if they offer him the mega max, the 5-year, $219 million contract. Haynes said Leonard has communicated with Greg Popovich in recent days, but the two have yet to speak in person. So we don't know what's going to happen. Let's just start right from the top and say we don't know that Kawhi Leonard is going to get traded. Maybe, him and Pop sit down, have a nice bottle of wine, hash out their differences, sign that Mega Max deal, and everything is hunky-dory in San Antonio. That said, based on the tone of the reports today, we're now going to recklessly speculate about where Kawhi is going to end up. So, let's start with Boston.
So here's the thing. Boston and Kawhi have been tied together several times over the past year because they're loaded with assets and they're kind of going forward after they acquired Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, which makes sense. The thing is, though, if Kawhi Leonard, this is all built on the idea that Kawhi is hung up on LA. Mm-hmm. If Kawhi is hung up on LA, then you end up in a Paul George situation, the tweet that I just read from Woj, where, in OKC right now, they're worried that they traded Victor Oladipo and the 11th pick, Domantas Sabonis, for, he wasn't the 11th pick at the time. He played a year at OKC, but that they traded those two for Paul George, who then leaves this summer, potentially. Because then they end up with nothing, which isn't really all that fantastic. Right. So, what's the play here if you're Boston? Do you take him for 1 year? Do you give up a lot of trade assets to take Kawhi for 1 year and then he leaves? That would be so not in the spirit of Danny Ainge.
Right. Yeah. I think that really applies to any non-LA team.
Right.
The there are teams out there that can come up with better trade packages than either the Lakers or the Clippers. The Boston is chief among them. The Suns could offer a pretty good package. The Sixers can offer a decent one too.
The Kings.
So, yeah, right, yeah. And who was it? Chris Mannix of Yahoo Sports said they're trying to work their way into the race with that number 2 pick. So there are a bunch of teams that have assets that will appeal to San Antonio. The question is, as you said, do they sell the farm for a guy who doesn't commit to re-signing there in a year?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're the Lakers or the Clippers, you could feel comfortable, giving up a Brandon Ingram or giving up Alonzo Ball, because you're assuming not only are you getting Kawhi, and not only will he re-sign, but especially if you're the Lakers, you're assuming if Kawhi's coming, one, if not both of Paul George and LeBron are coming as well.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the issue at hand. And also, I think it's safe to say this right now, because you and I had heard that there was legitimate debate or talk about LeBron ending up in San Antonio. That ship has to be sailing right now. I mean, because if Kawhi's not there, there's just no incentive for LeBron to sign there, really. I mean,
right.
It's just that's just a dead race. Unless, of course, like your point turns out to be right, and Pop brings out the best bottle of wine in human history and gets Kawhi so drunk that they agree to stay pals forever and ever and ever, and they go out and get matching BFF tattoos. But the thing is, that could not that there is a risk wherein that does not happen. Just because it worked with LaMarcus Aldridge, let's not paint it as an absolute certainty that Pop is going to salvage this.
Right.
I mean, Leonard could just want L.A. And we read that long-ass report on ESPN a couple months back suggesting that Kawhi had a lot of people in his corner trying to force him to a bigger market.
Yep.
So this could be that thing taking effect.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at this point, we don't know who leaked that report. Clearly someone in Kawhi's camp did, whether it's him, his agent, his uncle, whatever. I mean, it's interesting for Boston because, you're right. Boston, I think, has the best package of assets, as Woj said. If you're not giving up Tatum, I'm assuming.
No.
But you can either go one of two ways if you're Boston, which is the really intriguing part. You can give up Jaylen Brown plus your own the number 27 pick plus the Kings pick that the Sixers gave them in the Markelle Fultz deal, or they have a couple other picks owed to them. I think one from the Grizzlies, one from the Clippers. They have a bunch of trade assets, ammunition for what would then be a rebuilding San Antonio team.
Right.
They could also go in recent days we've started to hear, it's not you and I behind the scenes, just there have been some comments from Kyrie Irving and some reports about him that suggest he is not necessarily a lock to re-sign in Boston after this coming season. So maybe you just do, you say, all right, Kawhi for Kyrie. Or Kawhi for Kyrie and whatever. Throw in a pick, 27 or one of the ones you're owed. Not the Kings pick, but
wouldn't that just put both teams in crappy situations? Because then you have two teams with uncertainties.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think the Spurs would definitely prefer the Young package just because you have that foundation locked in and you have more team control.
Right.
I bet the Celtics would vastly prefer to give up Kyrie for that, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because they get rid of one uncertainty, then they take one on, obviously, but they keep their core, so even if Kawhi leaves, they will have Terry Rozier to take over those minutes for Kyrie, theoretically, and you have Jason Tatum to take over the minutes for Kawhi, you have Gordon Hayward. Obviously, yeah, you would prefer that, but this is about finding out what Kawhi wants, because we've seen that if players mention a specific team, that's usually where they'll end up. And that's Paul George notwithstanding. Right. But OKC took a gamble on that. I still respect the hell out of Sam Presti for taking that gamble, by the way. I really do. And I think he played extremely well in Oklahoma City. But fact remains, we're looking at it right now, and that could still be a 1-year gamble. And you don't want to be in that situation when you're Boston and you were 1 game from the finals. At this point, the worst that could happen for them is losing out on a tremendous asset. Like if they ended up just dumping asset into the ground, that's a huge problem.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the question is like, how devoted? Like, is Kawhi literally saying, is he going to tell any team that contacts him and his agent, you can trade for me, but I'm absolutely 100% not re-signing with you.
Right.
I'm only going to LA next year. There is nothing you can do, even if we win the title. Like, that's the thing with Boston is, if you trade Kyrie for Kawhi and whatever else, if it's literally just Kyrie for Kawhi and like throw in some picks, I think Boston wins the ring next year. I've already said Boston is going to be right in there anyway, even if you just run their actual quarterback. But, like, you've got Kawhi, Hayward, Brown, Tatum, Horford. Like, that's
someone's going to end up on the bench.
Maybe not, though. I think you probably just play Hayward as your, like, nominal point guard.
Oh, I like that. I like that very much. And then you have Terry Rozier coming off the bench as your more traditional. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and you've got Marcus Smart too, potentially if you re-sign him.
And Brad Stevens, like we know he'll make it work. So
right.
Oh, that's intriguing. Yeah. No, I like that. Good job, Brian.
Thank you. But like, if that happens and if they win the title, like Kawhi could posture and say, "I'm not re-signing with you," but if he wins a title and like. You win 65 games, and all of these guys are signed. Tatum and Brown are going to be under team control for the next half decade. At that point, like, what's your incentive to leave? Unless it's really just like a marketing thing. But that, I don't know. It just seems.
Okay, let me just fight that logic because he won a ring in San Antonio.
Yeah, that's true. But then this whole health issue popped up.
Well, right, but even so, like. That means that he's willing to move on for other reasons. Look, the Spurs, I don't remember this off the top of my head. How many games did the Spurs win this year?
47, I believe.
And Kawhi played in 9. So let's get one thing straight, because I've seen a lot of bad takes about the Spurs. They're still good. And with the healthy Kawhi, they're elite.
Right.
Like they would have been right there in the playoffs in the if not the conference finals, then they would have taken somebody to a game 7 in the second round. Like absolutely. So you look at that and you know that there is a certain level that the Spurs can reach, and Kawhi is actively rejecting that.
Right.
And he's rejecting that, and he's rejecting more money. So I cannot imagine at all that he would be willing to leave that for a market that isn't absolutely way superior, so he can earn that money back some way.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it seems like then winning is not the primary drive. And like, let's face it, if he's considering one of the LA teams, winning is not the primary drive. Like, then he would have to have LeBron, like, just on a pinky swear deal right next to him.
Which I'm assuming would be the case.
Right, and then I think it would have to be the Lakers unless the Clippers just really clean up their cap and hope that DeAndre opts out.
Yeah, right, that exactly. They would have to, that'll depend on what DeAndre does. Yeah, I mean, the Boston thing is interesting too, because I just saw, who was it that just tweeted? Oh, yeah, Vincent Goodwill of NBC Sports Chicago. He was talking about Boston and Philly. And he said, don't be so sure they get gung-ho to trade for Kawhi without assurances just because OKC did with Paul George. OKC was desperate and wanted Russ to re-sign. Boston and Philly have always been about the long play, which I think is an interesting and fair point. Like, last summer, there was that question of whether Russ was going to sign the Supermax. KD had just left. They were like, oh shit, were we about to lose the last member of our 4 stars that we drafted back in the late 2000s? So, like, they were doing whatever they could to get his name on the dotted line. Philly and Boston don't have that problem. Like, they've got their main pieces. Aside from Kyrie, they have all of their main pieces under contract for at least 2 more years. So there's, again, it just boils down to, like, incentives. Like, I don't think Boston or Philly sells the farm for Kawhi Leonard this year unless he says, this LA thing's overblown. Like, I would be willing to re-sign. Not like I'm going to, but, like, I'm not unwilling to.
Is that enough for you, though?
No. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't feel good about it. Like, I've seen, for the Sixers' perspective, and, first of all, for the Sixers, they don't have a general manager right now, so that doesn't help.
That small thing.
Like, Brett Brown's going to be the one negotiating this. So, to some degree, that helps, I guess, because Brett Brown was, with San Antonio before he came to the Sixers. He was there, I think he overlapped with Kawhi for 2 years, I believe. So he knows Kawhi. I mean, it's been 5 years, so, who knows how close they were over those 2 years. But at least he's, like, got more of a read on it than just a random dude.
Right.
But that said, like, yeah, I mean, the proposal I always seen thrown out is, like, Kawhi for some combination of Covington, Fultz, the number 10 pick, and Saric. That feels like a lot for a guy, unless he says, I'm re-signing with you in 2019. I don't know. I don't think I give up that much. If they take Fultz out, I probably would, though.
Here's the thing, though. You are leaving out the media, the persistent media questions that will come with the uncertainty.
You're right.
Can you imagine Joel Embiid being asked for the 25th time, do you think your teammate is going to re-sign this year?
Yeah, especially in the Philly market.
Right. Look, that is just going to ruin them. No, that's harsh, but what I mean by that is it's going to drain them. They're not going to be centered. They're not going to be that focused. It's all going to be, oh, what's happening? Because these guys in Philly, and this is not meant like in a negative way, they are very, locked in on social media, and they read everything. Like, that's very apparent to everyone right now. I mean, JoJo basically comments on everything. And that's fine. Like, there's not a problem with that. But with Kawhi and the uncertainty, you'll have 10 times the articles out. 10 times the speculation. The constant questions. And I have to believe that is not something that's good for a basketball team that's trying to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a fascinating problem to have for both Boston and Philly because the Lakers, I don't think they hesitate. So let's go to the Lakers, Mort. What would they have to offer to get Kawhi? Like, what's the least you would do it for if you're San Antonio?
Well, that's the thing, because if Kawhi tries to force his way to LA, like, that lowers the price significantly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at the very least, Brandon Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe you can sway the Spurs to just go him and then a protected first rounder. Mm-hmm. Because, again, the price is not going to be that high when everyone knows, I want to go there. I only want to go there, and I only want to re-sign there. Mm-hmm. Then that just brings the price down, understandably so. I mean, Lonzo Ball, if I'm the Lakers, I'm trying to trade Lonzo Ball to San Antonio, but Pop will not. Like, Pop and RC Buford are not going to touch that. Like, especially with the new... You know what? I'm not even going to say Voldemort now, because with the news coming out...
Yeah.
LeVar Ball, you can go fuck yourself. Whatever, you said about your wife and all that, that's just that's inhumane.
You're referring to, I think it was a Washington Post profile on him where he had some just truly disgusting comments about
his own wife who had a stroke. Yeah, like that. Yeah, you know what? I'm not even on the Voldemort wagon anymore. Fuck you, LeVar. Yeah. The Spurs would probably ask for Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, and Josh Hart. Mm-hmm. I would imagine.
Yeah.
But the thing is, would you need to give up all that? I mean, I don't think so. If Kawhi just establishes, I only want to go here. I will not re-sign anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean it's a fair. The Spurs could just say, "All right, screw you. We're not going to trade him."
Mm-hmm. And then just
Yep.
take the loss.
Yeah, I guess so. It's an option. It's not a good option, but
It's a horrible option because then you strengthen the Lakers significantly.
right. Yeah.
I mean,
or they just say we'll take less from another team just because we don't want what the Lakers are, this like insulting package from the Lakers.
right.
Like maybe they would prefer Kyrie over whatever.
I mean, yeah, maybe. Oh, this is tough. This is really tough. And you know what makes this tougher than a lot of similar situations? It's that Kawhi Leonard, when healthy, is arguably a top 3 to top 5 player. This is not someone who's like, oh, a top 15, like top 20 maybe. No, he's like at fully healthy Kawhi, at the very least, is a top 5 player and an MVP candidate. Yeah. So the value here is just so much higher in terms of what you're getting on the floor, but knowing the contractual situation and knowing, who has the leverage, that is going to carry every ounce of importance in this case. Mm-hmm. I mean, where do you stand on this in terms of a guy having that much power, actually? I know that's just changing gears a little bit, but back in the day, like the league had, or sorry, not the league, the teams had more control in trading a player. Nowadays, it seems like players can dictate, where they want to go. On some level, I kind of like that a guy has the opportunity to say, I want to work here, but at the same time, it seems very random, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm never going to insult or, like, take issue with a player trying to dictate his own situation.
Right.
Like, these guys, the way the system is set up, especially with first-round picks, like, you're realistically bound to your first team for 8 to 9 years if everything goes right. So if, like, something happens like this Kawhi situation in particular, where he feels like, he had a serious medical issue. He feels like the franchise did wrong by him, and he doesn't care. Like, he's ready to just burn bridges on the way out. I'm fine with it. I mean, I get why it would rub people the wrong way, and like especially why it would rub Spurs fans the wrong way, because it does reduce the Spurs' leverage in this. But like from Kawhi's perspective, if he's going to get traded somewhere, he doesn't want his new team to sell the farm. Like, he wants something to be left. He doesn't want a Carmelo in 2011 going from the Nuggets to the Knicks, and the Knicks giving up everything, and the Knicks just being a pleasantly mediocre 45 to 50 win team that actually never did anything.
And Carmelo, to his credit, actually didn't want the Knicks to give up that much, and they just did anyway, right?
Yeah.
Just Knicks. Yeah, right.
But,
no, I agree. Yeah,
and even if he says, I want to go to the Lakers, or I want to go to the Clippers, and Boston and Philly duck out because they're like, no, we're not going to give up, all of this for that. There's going to be some team that does something stupid. Like Sacramento is definitely lurking, and it's like, we've got the number 2 pick.
Yeah,
we've got a great organization, great culture. You're going to fall right in love.
We have the new
Kawhi.
Steph Curry.
Yeah. And so, like, that's the thing. I think even if the big names that we're thinking about right now, there's going to be a wild card that jumps into this bidding at some point.
No, I think the wild card is Sacramento, isn't it?
Or Phoenix.
Yeah. Yeah, Phoenix could be. But just, hey, all right, so listen to this, though. If Pop sticks around for a couple of years and they get the second pick and pick Luka. Mm-hmm. Good Lord, Brian. I kind of have like a semi going just for the fun of that.
Yeah, I know. But there's been reports coming out, at least, I forget who had it, that Pop is possibly done after the 2020 Olympics.
Well, yeah, but that's what I said. Like a couple years with Luka, that's enough to get him started.
Yeah, and then you're still going to have Messina or someone like.
You'll have someone from the Spurs tree.
Yeah.
But that's like the dream scenario if you're an international prospect, isn't it? I mean, at some point we have to consider this, like for the sake of the Spurs, and if the Kings are just dumb enough to make this offer, knowing full well that Kawhi is at risk of leaving, I think that's the preferred deal you take if you're the Spurs. That's the second pick. Because you just, at this point, we all know Aiden is going 1. Like, that seems to be, everyone's reporting it. Aiden himself is like, no, I know. Like, I'm number 1. Like, this is Luka.
Yeah.
Like, you do that, right? That's what they're hoping. I can't imagine anything but that's what they're hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think they're in any rush to make that deal. I think maybe they wait to see how the draft plays out. Like, I still would be very surprised if they make this move before they are literally allowed to offer him the Supermax. And, like, they hand him a piece of paper that says, we will give you $219 million over the following 5 years.
Right.
To and
play
watch
basketball.
him push it away.
Right.
Yeah. I don't make a trade until I literally see him decline it. Because, I just think when you, just call his bluff at this point. Or try to. I mean, if he gets traded, he's no longer eligible for the Supermax, which is I think it's about a difference, at least $30 million, I think closer to 40 than 30. So he's turning down a shit ton of money like that.
Yeah.
He must be very unhappy in San Antonio to turn down upward of almost $40 million.
He's basically saying that his hurt feelings and the way that the injury was handled is worth that much. And I get that. Disrespect can be priceless in in a literal sense. So this is just such a tough situation because we still don't entirely know what happened. We have gotten closer to understanding that the problem was because of the injury and their perception from the coaching staff and all this, but we don't really know how it got so bad. It seemed to come out of the blue. We know there's some unknown factor, like the uncle and stuff like that. But, I mean, again, I've said this 20 times. I'm going to say it again. I'm looking forward to Lee Jenkins one day. Just tweeting out something like, here's the story.
right. Here's my 5,000-word opus. What went wrong.
So, while we were talking, Zach Lowe came out with a pretty interesting tweet. This is not Kawhi-related specifically, but it could be a way to actually look at how the Spurs should go about this. He's saying, ESPN sources, league sent teams memo today indicating the one and done could be gone as early as 2021. That's in 3 years. Meaning, teams would be able to draft high schoolers. Yeah. Now, that's actually valuable information because if the Spurs are going to trade Kawhi and they're looking for, they're looking to rebuild, meaning they'll have to look at a lot of future draft picks. Now knowing that you have access to taking high school players at a certain age, that could change the way that you actually construct your roster. So that plays a little bit into this decision now.
And it could change the way you value certain years of draft picks. Maybe you're trying to get a 2022 pick or a 2021 pick out of this deal so you can get first crack at whatever class, whatever class that one and done rule goes away. Yeah. That's going to be the most loaded draft class. I mean, I don't want to say in NBA history because 2003 exists, but you're going to have the one and dones from the year before plus all of the high school kids who would have been one and dones. You're getting 2 years worth of talent. And then whatever year is after that is going to be an abomination, right? Or I guess it'll just be it'll be worse. You'll have the high school kids, but then all the one and dones will have gone out the year before, so it's just going to be a bunch of upperclassmen.
Oh God, the NCAA are so screwed, and I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Oh well, that's a discussion for another date. Right. But the thing is,
it's a fair point though.
There is some relevance to it. So let's just go down the list a little bit here, because there's an ESPN article. I'm not sure. You linked it to me. It says from NBA Insider, so that must be a gathering.
It's a bunch of different guys proposing Kawhi deals.
So let's just immediately take some of these teams and cross them over because the Miami Heat, the Toronto Raptors, the Portland Trailblazers, no. What's the incentive? Because obviously the key here is I want to go to a bigger market,
Right.
and I want to go somewhere where I can bring LeBron. I mean, that I have to assume that's the idea.
Yeah.
And Toronto, like, you won't be able to free up enough cap
No.
space
No,
to get
no,
both those
no.
guys. Miami just locked themselves up completely by signing a bunch of role players to 4-year contracts. So,
Yeah.
and I don't assume that they are that movable.
Well, I like the deal. The proposed deal is from Andre Snellings of ESPN.
Yeah.
In this deal, the Heat would get Kawhi and Patty Mills. The Spurs would get Goran Dragic, Josh Richardson, Justice Winslow, and Bam Adebayo.
That's a hell of a price, though.
I know. It's a lot for the Heat to give up, but like if I'm the Spurs, I prefer that package to anything the Lakers can put together.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me think about that one, because like you, I'm absolutely in love with Josh Richardson.
Yeah, that might be the problem. But I also like Bam Adebayo's.
Yeah. I'm not interested in Justice Winslow. That's to that extent. Like, he's fine, but he's going to be a restricted free agent pretty soon. And he's probably going to ask for like 12, 15 million a year. And I just question whether he's worth that. Goran Dragic, while he would be immensely fun on a San Antonio Spurs team, he's just a little bit older. He wouldn't fit into like a rebuilding structure.
Yeah.
But then you could look at it in a different light. Like, if the Heat makes this trade and Kawhi leaves, they at least got a bunch of contracts off their books.
Yeah, right, exactly.
There's a silver lining, yeah.
Well, I mean, Justice and Bam are still on rookie deals, and Richardson's deal, he just signed that extension.
He signed the extension, yeah, and you get off
relatively reasonable.
Right.
Or yeah,
and you won't
like
have
4
to
years,
extend.
42.
Yeah, and you won't have to extend Justice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That is true. That's a fair point. Yeah. I mean, I actually, and that's again, it's like there are gonna be wild card teams that maybe they just don't give a shit, and like,
yeah,
like I'm thinking about like a Toronto, a Portland, a Washington. We've been mentioning those three in conjunction with Miami. They're just like they feel stuck.
right.
Where like this current core isn't enough.
Yeah.
So maybe you're just like, screw it. I'll give up. Like in this list is also proposed deals from the Raptors. Andre Snellings proposed Kawhi and Rudy Gay for DeMar DeRozan, OG, and Pascal. Like maybe you're just like, I just want to get off of DeMar DeRozan's contract, and if Kawhi leaves, at least we accomplish that.
Oh, I'm getting an idea here, Ryan. Hang on. I have to go look to see if the math works out. I don't think it does.
Okay. Well, I mean, Portland too. There was C.J. McCollum and a 2019 first round pick for Kawhi.
Yeah.
Like if I'm the Blazers or the Raptors, I don't do those deals because I don't think there's any chance Kawhi resigns there, and I think, especially for the Raptors, giving up OG and Siakam is those two guys are good pieces, good rotation pieces. I don't think you want to give them up for 1 year rental of Kawhi Leonard, but.
Well, I was actually looking at the team who beat out the Portland Trailblazers in the playoffs.
Oh.
Because could you imagine Brow and Kawhi on the same team? Like, obviously, you wouldn't be able to re-sign Boogie, I think.
Sure. Yeah. And throw Drew Holiday in there?
Yeah.
Or are you you're going to trade Drew Holiday?
That's no. Not trade Drew Holiday, because he doesn't fit into San Antonio's rebuilding plan. Like, you would have to give up, like, I guess, Nico, some role players, and then like a ton of picks. Like, you would have to gamble, but good lord, just that combination.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it's the same problem as before. It's not a big market at all. It's actually a lesser market. It's a smaller market.
Right.
So, but that's where the basketball component just grabbed me, because that would be extremely fun. But
yeah,
no, you're right. I mean, it has to be a big market. I've seen the New York Knicks be mentioned briefly, where I'm just like, I get it because of the market size, but
sure,
like, what? No.
What do they have? They're not giving up Kristaps.
No, and Bob and Buford are not going to take like Tim Hardaway.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, I guess they have number 9 this year, right? They have Frankie
Yeah.
Smokes in number 9, so you've got some future assets. You could, I guess, give up like Courtney Lee, who is a productive role player. But like, is that enough for the Spurs? Is that going to beat?
Okay,
the
I wouldn't
Lakers
hate
offer?
that as much. I wouldn't hate that if it's ninth and Frankie Smokes. Like if you get both.
Yeah, it's a lot to give up.
It's a lot if you're in Knicks, but here's the
Yeah.
thing: the Knicks are batshit crazy enough to do it.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. We should really. Oh, what about the Bulls? Speaking of terribly run teams.
The Bulls are fun in the sense that they would probably not engage with this because they are frightened off by big re-signing hires. Like you know,
Yeah, that's true.
even if it's not 219 million, Kawhi will be like eligible for a huge contract.
It'd be like 180, I think.
Yeah, 180, 185.
Yeah.
So that would scare them off, I think. And also, like, could you just imagine the outcry? Because you would want to pair Kawhi with Jimmy,
Right.
as opposed to pairing him with a bunch of rookies.
Yeah.
Like, that
Yeah.
wouldn't make sense. And the Bulls are not in a position where they can cash in on their youngsters at all. Like, they have 2 young draft assets in Lauri Markkanen and 7. You could argue Bobby Portis, but I'm not so sure. Like, Denzel Valentine? Eh. Chris Dunn now apparently has issues with his motor and
Right.
like, work ethic. And, like,
Right.
no. I think the Bulls are about the least likely team to get involved here.
Yeah.
They should, but they won't
Right.
because money.
Trying to think who else. Like the Timberwolves, I guess could, but I don't think Wiggins is moving the needle for the Spurs. Maybe
I mean,
you do
what
a
do you
straight
think
up like
about Greg Popovich here? Are you telling me that he would actually look at Andrew Wiggins and think, "Oh, good investment"?
right? I mean, maybe they do a Jimmy Butler for Kawhi because they know Jimmy's gonna leave after next year.
That would break my heart because I want them to play together
I
so
know,
bad,
I
Brian.
know. It's
I
so
would
close.
literally be crying for 3 days.
The Nuggets have some interesting young pieces. You could dangle a Gary Harris, a Jamal Murray, even a Jokic.
Oh
I mean,
my
you've
god, Brian! I
got-
think you just hit the nail on the head with this team. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the team. Like
That'd
from
be
a
a fun
from a basketball perspective. Like now we're just into complete, fantasy territory.
Yeah. right.
But they have not had a 3
Right.
like for a
Oh.
while.
Yeah, like no offense to Wilson Chandler.
Yeah, no, and I mean that, but they have not
Right.
had a guy of like insane caliber.
Yeah, like a superstar 3.
A
Since
superstar.
Carmelo.
So yeah, exactly. And they had Gallo, who was injured all the time. Like he
Right.
was affecting them positively, but so yeah, you would have a core of Jokic, Millsap, Kawhi up. Oh my god, that's such a sick front court. And you'd have, I don't even care in the backcourt. Like you would keep one of Gary Harris and Jamal Murray, I presume.
Yeah,
and then you
I would
would-
assume so.
Yeah, and then you trade at least the 14th pick. You can get an expiring contract in Kenneth Reed. He only has 1 year left.
Yep. They have a bunch of young guys: Trey Lyles, Juan
Oh,
Hernan
man.
Gomez, Malik Beasley, Tyler Lydon.
Is there a world where they could actually keep Jamal Murray and Gary Harris when you think about it?
Ooh, I don't know.
No.
Maybe.
If they
but-
sacrifice picks in later draft as well. So they trade you like Trey Lyles, Malik Beasley, for salary purposes, Ken Freed,
Sure.
and then just the 14th this year and maybe a top 3, top 5 protected pick next year or the year after or something like that. I mean, I think the Spurs would at least look at it.
Yeah, I don't know if that beats what the Lakers can offer. I think you would probably have to throw one of those guys in, but yeah, I mean they certainly have the assets to get involved. Utah too. If you want Donnie and Kawhi playing together,
I'll be down for that. Yeah.
because I mean they have Joe Ingles. They could do Jay Crowder, Alec Burks. They don't really have a bunch of star young players, and they're going to be too good to get the picks that you would need for those star young players. So I think that's probably going to knock them out ultimately. But
Imagine that defense.
yeah, I know.
Oh.
I know.
And
Like-
then you would have the offensive component as well, as you will have both Kawhi and Donnie just going at it.
Oh my god. I also assume like the Rockets are going to try to get involved. They have nothing they can offer, but
Daryl Morey.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's such a cop-out thing to say, but it really is. I just will not doubt Daryl Morey.
Nope.
Benefit of the doubt. Let's look at the Clippers, though, because we've talked about the Lakers. The Clippers are obviously the other team in LA. They have 2 lottery picks. They have 12 and 13.
Yeah.
They have Pat Beverly on a non-guaranteed. It's a $5 million deal. It doesn't guarantee until January 10th. Mm-hmm. They still have Sam Decker.
Montrezl Harrell?
He is a free agent this year, so they can't offer him. But
right. He was a second rounder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they could offer Sindarius Thornwell, Juwan Evans, Tobias Harris to make the salaries work.
Who's good.
Right.
By the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, the Clippers could probably put together a more enticing package than the Lakers can.
Well, I was kind of, I was a little bit puzzled because you said earlier, the Lakers could probably put together a strong package. I was like, I don't think the Lakers, generally speaking, can put together a strong package. Mm-hmm. It's Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma, basically.
Yeah, I like Josh Hart, too. It depends on how many of them you're willing to give up, but yeah.
Right. But that's the thing, you slaughter your depth completely. You would have to rely, obviously, in this scenario, LeBron comes with him, with Kawhi, and then it's all about the ring chasers again. Again and again. That's the theme with LeBron, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whenever he goes somewhere, ring chasers and spot-up shooters. Ring chasers and rinse and repeat.
But it's going to be tough. I mean, if you're the Lakers and you carve up an outcast space for LeBron, that means you only have the room exception, which is going to be 4.5 million, and that's just minimum contracts. So you're right. That's why I'm kind of confused by this whole Lakers thing, because I think even if you add Kawhi and LeBron,
right,
and even if you add Paul George to that, I still don't know, unless they get really lucky and a bunch of really good players sign for way less than they could get. Maybe Trevor Ariza leaves the Rockets and signs for half of that and takes their room exception. And then maybe Brooke Lopez is all right, cool, I just want a ring chase, I'll sign for the minimum.
You don't think they had enough wings? You just wanted to throw Trevor Ariza in with Paul George, LeBron James, and Kawhi Leonard? Yeah.
That's the thing, though. I still, even if you assemble... If you're building this Lakers team from scratch, it seems is at least a possibility.
Right.
I just don't know if they would still beat the Warriors, which is the whole point of this.
I had a different thought here in regards to, because you just mentioned the 3 players, Paul George adding to this whole thing. That would require that Luol Deng is traded. We know that they have not succeeded in traded Lou, and they've tried. Lord knows they've tried. Mm-hmm. It's because he's owed another $36.8 million over the next 2 years.
Yep.
And teams have apparently really been trying to squeeze the Lakers out of assets, draft picks and young guys. If teams understand or know that Kawhi and LeBron is going to come to the Lakers, and they know that there's a chance Paul George might follow them, but it will take Luol Deng coming off the books,
right?
They will ask for the fucking moon for taking on Luol Deng's contract. That's not just going to be, we want 2 draft picks. No, that's going to be, we want 2 draft picks, Josh Hart, cash, future considerations, every second rounder you have for the next 5 years. We want the entire treasure trove that you have left just to take on Luol Deng.
Right. I mean, I would assume they'll try to include Deng if they do trade for Kawhi. They would try to get that deal off in the Kawhi trade. But again, it goes back to your point. Why did the Spurs say yes to that?
They don't.
Right.
Yeah, they absolutely don't.
Or they shouldn't.
Right. No, I mean, I love this season so much. This offseason.
So good.
Offseason is better at times than the regular season. I'm sorry. It just is.
No, this is just the tip of the iceberg. That's the best part. It was just, otherwise, was just going to be a normal Friday. I was going to write some offseason preview stuff this weekend. Mm-hmm. And now it's scratch everything, just strap onto Twitter for the next 8 hours, because it's going to be a goddamn roller coaster. And this is we're still 15 days from free agency. It's going to be an absolute madhouse next week when the draft comes in.
So here's I had a thought because you remember DeAndre Gate a couple years back, which was fantastic. I'm still so thankful that I was awake when that all happened. Like that was just So I have a feeling that people are gonna live tweet the meeting, the sit down meeting Pop is gonna have with Kawhi.
Oh, for sure.
That is going. I mean, we have to figure out the details of when the two are going to meet, and you'll have Twitter accounts talking about the wine that they're having, like if Kawhi will have cheese with it and stuff like. It will be great, Brian.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man. All right, boy. Let's give a prediction.
All right.
This is very early in the process, of course.
Lakers,
but you think Kawhi ends up on the Lakers?
I think he gets to where he wants to go. And we all heard so many rumblings about LeBron wanting the Lakers even from a year ago. Yeah. That I just think there is so much smoke that at the very least it's a very realistic option. What it saddens me a little bit. Like I mentioned at the top of the show here, you and I had heard that LeBron was actually considering the Spurs because Kawhi was there, like they wanted to play together and all that. I would have loved that even more. Like that would have been the most awesome thing ever to see the second best player of all time, play with the greatest coach of all time. Yeah. That would have been just such a tremendous gift for basketball lovers to watch. I don't think that's going to come to fruition unless that meeting goes really, really well.
Or maybe the Spurs trade Pop to the Lakers for another first round pick.
Oh yeah. Oh, could you imagine Pop coaching a different team? I would just no.
He's not. No, that was a complete joke.
I know, but I mean, just theoretically, I mean, I barf when that happens on 2K. So in real life, that would just be so horrible. Yeah. One final note to this: if he ends up on the Lakers, Kawhi, and LeBron follows, I don't think there's a chance in hell Lonzo Ball is on that opening day roster.
Me neither. Yeah, but I hope they don't trade Lonzo to the Spurs.
Right,
that would make me really sad.
Yeah, no, I think they find a different deal for him. I think he is so out of there because here you have two well-established super duper stars coming in. Right. You don't want the lunacy of LeVar and the whole family circus.
Right. But I mean, there was just a thing. He was on some radio show yesterday, I think like Big Boy's Neighborhood or something. And they asked, what could LeBron teach your kid? And he's like, nothing. I already taught him everything he needs to know.
Yeah, well.
Like, this is 2 weeks from free agency, and this dipshit is still, like, actively antagonizing the player the Lakers are trying to sign. It's ridiculous. I tweeted it the other day. I think the best thing, if you are a team that wants to sign LeBron James and you are not the Lakers, you should, like, actively be working with LeVar Ball to put him on the radio as much as possible these next couple weeks. Like, you want him to shoot himself in the foot every day and shoot the franchise in the foot every day to prevent this super team from forming.
I said something last year. We had a guest on. I don't remember who it was, admittedly. And I got pretty ridiculed for this statement, but I believe in it to this day. I don't think in 5 years Lonzo Ball is in the league. Not because of a lack of talent, but because of all that stuff that he brings with him.
Yeah. It's going to be really... I think that's... Honestly, I'm with you. I think the Lakers are probably the most likely destination for Kawhi, just based on what we've been seeing today. I think the thing I am most excited about is Lakers fans' heel turn on all of their young players that they were propping up as, like, the next great thing. Like, all of them were just so fucking into Lonzo Ball. And when they trade Lonzo Ball away, they're all just going to start shitting on him immediately, just like they did D'Angelo Russell. It is going to be spectacular.
Yeah. Yep. And to your point about that, I have a feeling that Spurs fans are going to heel turn on Kawhi. And, I get it. I mean, look, you and I agree that a player having the ability to say, I want to go here and here, that's well within his right, and he should, and that's fine. But I also get, like, fan attachment. I understand that you feel like you had a connection with a guy and then he says, I don't want to be here anymore. It's kind of like a breakup. It really is. I mean, because you're emotionally invested in that guy and there's nothing really you can do. It's a complete breakup, and Spurs fans are gonna boo him for. I think it's gonna be very similar to the Vince Carter situation in Toronto.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, for Spurs fans especially, because Kawhi was just supposed to be that bridge from Tim Duncan, and there was nothing indicating that wasn't going to be the case until this past year. So I think just the abruptness of this whole thing, and the Spurs have just been such a model organization for the last 2 decades that it's all just so out of the blue still. And I am still shocked. I really thought, we heard the reports all year that he's unhappy and blah, 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 but I was like, it's $219 million. He's not going to turn it down. And then part of me still thinks that, even despite all of this evidence today suggesting otherwise. So I think that's a big part of it. But to your point too, the rational part of me says yes, players should have their choice, whatever. But I know in 4 years, if Joel Embiid pulls this shit, I'm gonna be devastated.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be absolutely just straight up gutted like a fish. So I don't want to I'm not gonna make fun of Spurs fans for however they react.
Right,
it's a totally natural thing. I'd say remember all the good that he brought to your franchise. Yeah. He did help you win a ring. He was an excellent player who you've had the pleasure for cheering for 8 years now. I mean, I understand feeling hurt and frustrated by this whole thing, but this too will pass. Mm-hmm. And for your sake, I just hope you don't end up with Lonzo Ball as the main piece of the return.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't happen. And to clarify, I wasn't trying to speak ill of Spurs fans. I get it. Right. I get the whole reaction to it. I mean, obviously, it means you're emotionally invested, and I think organizations would rather have that than what you see with the Bulls right now. I mean, people don't care, right? Or the Pistons. These were wildly loyal fan bases who just completely turned on their teams, for accurate reasons, for perfectly fair reasons. And now you're seeing a complete lack of interest in them. They're not being sold out. Their accounts are trying to be created on social media. Whenever they do, they're getting trashed. It's a weird place to be in, and I think the Spurs will avoid all that. I think they will have some really goodwill coming up their way, even though they did have a part to play in all this. I mean, let's not be crazy. Both sides did mess this whole situation up. The Spurs aren't blameless in all this. But I think the fact that they've stayed professional for so many years and have just been this model of an organization, I think that's going to go a long way for their franchise. And they have Dejounte Murray, who's going to get every conceivable touch that he wants next year now. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for him to just come out of the gates. He's my most improved player pick right now.
I like it. Well, obviously, we will keep an eye on this Kawhi stuff in the days and weeks to come. We'll hopefully, whatever happens with him, we will hopefully be able to record an emergency pod pretty quickly thereafter. So keep an eye out for that. We also have an episode coming out later this weekend with Ricky O'Donnell of SB Nation talking about the big names in the NBA draft for next week. So check out our Twitter account at the NBA Pod. For all of our latest episodes, you can also find our Twitter handles in our bio. You can also find us on iTunes, so please subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Download, leave some 5-star reviews. We'd love any feedback. And we're now being hosted on the Almighty Baller Podcast Network, so check them out on Twitter at AlmightyCasts. Until next time, I'm Bryan Toporek, and I was joined, as always, by Morten Jensen. Have a good one, Mort.
Can you have a good one when you have to stay up at 3 a.m. now, because now the free agency and the draft is rolling around? I was so happy. The season is over. I didn't have to stay up to 3. Now these things are coming out. Now I have to. Don't stay up to 3.
Just set your phone instead of Woj alerts, just set your phone to me alerts, and I'll.
I appreciate it. No, but here's the thing. I don't want to miss out on another DeAndre Gate. I don't want to miss out. It's fine. It's much easier to stay up in the summer when it comes to free agency stuff. Bryan, I'm giddy. Next week is the draft. It's going to be good, man. So
it's going to be very good. Yeah. So keep an eye out for the Ricky O'Donnell pod. We're also going to have hopefully one more draft pod, and we'll do some stuff after the draft too. We also have one very special episode we are going to put out at some point, so keep an eye out for that too. It's going to be a behind-the-scenes look at the off-season with a person who would know how it works better than we would.
Oh, so, you teased it. You teased it. Yes, you did.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. So, all right, Mort, have a good one.
You too, man.